About 20 years ago, when I first started to learn fingerstyle guitar, I struggled to play smoothly and felt like I was never going to be able to figure it out like so many other players had. But then I discovered this technique that completely changed everything and allowed me to follow the path of playing any type of fingerstyle I wanted, whether it was studying classical, playing solo weddings or private gigs, but ultimately achieving my vision of earning a living with just my guitar. To be able to master this for yourself, you first have to understand the problem your fingerstyle technique currently has. So sometimes what's most natural is not what's best. Every single time I watch a student try to fingerstyle for the first time, they put their hands down like this. The problem with this is that your fingers are bumping into each other, and which results in a stiff sound. Now, why would you even want to bother learning fingerstyle if it's so challenging anyways? Well, it gives you a much greater control, but particularly gives you a greater dynamic range. It also gives you choices over strings that don't have to be adjacent, which is much more like playing piano. You can eventually do all kinds of cool things like hybrid picking. And it really helps with the latest technique that I've been learning, playing slide, because it can get real sloppy when you're using a pick. And fingerstyle cleans it up nicely. But ultimately, it's just a very different sound than using a pick like most people do. I first got into it at the same time I started playing guitar and found it difficult to play smoothly until I was doing some research in the early days of online education before YouTube even existed. I stumbled upon a book called The Principles of Correct Practice for Guitar. And it laid out the technique that eventually allowed me to play with much more flow. That was huge because the vision I had from my playing really involved having fingerstyle as a big part of it. And the new technique allowed me a critical tool to help achieve my vision. And I realized that small tweaks can equal big changes. And that paved the way for me to learn so much more. But ultimately allowed me to earn a living performing and teaching guitar. And again, sometimes what's most natural is not what's best, and therefore you need to become aware of a different approach. So how did I fix these issues I had with my fingerstyle technique? Well, the technique that I discovered that changed everything is really just a couple of simple things. First, you want to adjust your hand a little bit like this so your thumb is sticking out. It's kind of like in the old days of hitchhiking. This gives the thumb much more room to breathe and making it much more mobile. By doing this, it also gives more room for all the other fingers to move. And the second part, which is crucial, is to make sure that you follow through like swinging a bat or a tennis racket. You don't just stop the racket when you hit the ball. You follow through all the way with a full motion. This seems like a waste of energy, but it will actually allow you to play faster because you're just letting it flow naturally. And it gives you a greater control of the dynamics and better tone, and who doesn't want that? I've taught this to countless students, and every time we both notice a huge difference right away. So it's something you can get instant results from, but it's very hard not to revert back to the old way. So one key part of it is you need to keep practicing and keep it very slow and simple. Just try one finger at a time before you pull it all together. I always say perfect practice makes automatic. That's the goal we all want, and when you don't have to think about it so much, it becomes a part of you, and then your playing becomes much better. Now, improving your technique like this is just one piece of the puzzle to becoming a better guitar player. You also want to improve your ears because, after all, we listen to music, and that's why you should check out this video right here because it will add another piece of the puzzle. This is a trick that is something that really made a huge difference for me while I was struggling with ear training in college.